Hello and welcome to Get Focused with Bill Kane, Gina Fay. Hey, Gina.
Hey, Bill.
So we are drawn to two different topics, and they're questions that I have. So I kind of want to start with Anthony, the question about my son. Okay. Uh, so my son's 14, and, that transitional young adult, making his way, figuring things out. And baseball season's here, for example, but it happens with different things all the time where he so I'll use baseball as the example because that's what's right in front of us right now. Um, so he strikes out, okay, gets up the base, doesn't get a hit, and he strikes out. So he feels like he's a failure, okay, and where striking out technically is a failure, and I understand that. But also I try to explain that in baseball, the greatest hitters in history struck out or made an out, 70% of the time. They're 300 batting average. That's 200 to 300 is a very good batting average for a season. And explaining that to him that, if you got up 10 times, you made an out seven of those, right? And it doesn't seem to register because it's coming from me. It's not something he's feeling. How do I assist that? What is the best approach? Do I just hear him out or?
Well, here's what I find. I find often that when kids try to tell their parents how they're feeling, whether it's that they're feeling shy, whether it's that they're feeling a failure, whatever it is, um, a parent's natural reaction is to try to talk the kid out of those feelings.
Correct.
And why do you suppose that is?
Because I don't want him to. Well, there's two sides to that. I am aware of that, so that's why I'm asking you, because I know when I approach him with it, I know he's feeling it. It's one thing I've learned over learning about myself is I understand that he has this in his head, and I can't just say, oh, it'll be okay, I'll take it away. I understand the reasoning why I want to take that away is because I don't want him to be upset.
Why?
It's
Why don't you want? What is it like for you if he's upset?
well, I don't
Don't
know.
overthink it.
I
Don't.
don't know. I'm thinking
What's it
I,
like for you when you see Anthony upset?
it's
Does it,
upsetting for me.
okay, that's why you try to talk him out of his feelings, because you're trying to take care of yourself without being aware of it. You're trying to make yourself feel better because it bothers you to hear your son tell you he feels like a failure. So you're doing what you're doing for yourself, not for him.
Right, but
Yeah. Wait.
no. I get that. I totally understand
Doing
that.
it because it makes you uncomfortable. It pains you to hear him tell you that he feels like a failure. So to take away your discomfort, you try to talk him out of his feeling.
Right, but that's why I'm asking you this, because I don't want to talk him out of it. I want him to understand it.
And what does that mean? What does I want him to understand it mean?
Okay, so I understand that I'm upset because he's upset, and I'm trying to not be upset through relaxing or calming him, right? Or taking his away from him, right?
Talking him out of his
Correct. So
uncomfortable,
I understand what my motivation is.
right?
Um, I we talked about this last episode about being awake, right?
Yeah.
So I'm aware, I'm present,
Yeah.
and I want him because so I try to approach and okay, so I want him to be present as well, right? I know I can't
So,
force
so
that on him.
right, who are you to try to get Anthony to be anything but who he is in the moment?
Correct. And well, that's why I'm asking.
Right.
what is the approach? What is a better approach?
Well,
Because do I just ignore?
well, I don't know if overwhelming him with chatter or ignoring him are your only two options. I
Well,
think
that's what,
to take a position of holding the space for him. So what does that mean to you? What does being a failure mean to you? Kind of the way I tease things out of you when I talk to you. What does that mean for you? Because it may mean, so him saying to you, Dad, I feel like a failure, means one thing to you, means a different thing to him possibly, but without checking with him what that means to him, you're putting your own spin on it and trying to fix it without really even knowing what he's telling you.
right. And that's the hardest thing for me is not knowing. It's sort of it's the same feeling I had when they were infants and they're crying and they've been fed. You know what I mean? You don't know
You don't know, but Bill,
what's wrong.
he's not an infant anymore, and I think he's got a pretty good grasp of the English language.
Correct. So what
So
so for example, tonight what I did was when he was upset, you know, I listened to him. I told him I understand and I just walked with him, right? I didn't try where Saturday I tried to comfort him. Where today I didn't. I just didn't talk about it, right? I talked about other things.
well,
How was
that
school and
and that is avoiding it.
well, that's what I mean. So that's why I'm asking.
Okay. So what did he say to you tonight? What did he say to you tonight? What were his words? Why don't you let's do a role play.
He
You
said
be
he has the worst batting average on the team.
you be Anthony and I'll be you. And let's see if we can't find another way to
Okay.
deal with this. Go ahead.
So he go, you could see it on his face, right? He's
Why?
very
Yeah.
upset.
Listen.
So
Why
go
don't
ahead.
you just be Anthony? Role
I
play.
am being Anthony. I have to lay out
Oh, well,
what
not
happened, right?
necessarily. Trust me that I can read what's on your face. Trust me that I can read between the lines.
Okay, because I spoke first, but you didn't know that.
Okay, so what did I say? What did you say?
I said, "What's wrong?"
Okay, so let's start right there.
Right, and he responded with, "I have the worst batting average on the team. I can't hit."
So you're saying you have the worst batting average on the team and you can't hit. What's that
Yes.
like for you? What's that feel like for you?
Okay, so if I would have said that, I'm sure I'm angry or
Keep being him. Keep being him. So, go
well,
ahead.
I'm trying. It's difficult for me because I don't look at it the way. Does that make sense?
No.
I didn't ask him that.
So
So
you
my reaction would be different than what his. I'm assuming his reaction would be, I just suck.
Yeah, well, it doesn't need to be exact and you don't have
Right.
to get it 100% correct, but this is just to model a different way of interacting with him that might bring out more information, is
Right.
what I'm trying to say. So you're saying you suck. What does that mean? What does that mean,
I'm
Ann?
horrible. I'm no good.
No good at all?
No good at all.
Wow, that hurts me to hear you say that. Tell me more about that.
Well, I can't hit. I didn't catch every ball I should have caught.
So you're kind of have pretty high expectations of yourself. You expect yourself to catch every ball, huh?
It's fascinating because this is a conversation that I've had with him.
Yeah.
Exactly how you're saying it.
Okay. And
Because over the years, now he's in his third season, and I know that about him that when he first picked up the guitar, he expected to play like the
whoever,
people on
yeah,
an album.
yeah.
When he first put the glove on, he expected to catch every ball or get
Okay.
up the bat and hit every.
Okay. So I guess that's something you know about him.
Right. He puts very, very
Oh,
high
okay.
expectations on himself.
Okay. But with the guitar, he persevered, right?
Yeah. He sits and same with baseball. He's
And with baseball, he perseveres.
correct.
So why is it possible to let him have his shitty feelings about himself?
Yeah, and I do.
You
Like
do?
I said tonight, I don't. my way of letting him have it is not beating him on it, not questioning him, and I let him say his piece, and then I just move on with the conversation. I'm not really, I know it was kind of addressed as avoiding it, but I let him know
It
that I'm
sounds like
here.
yeah. It sounds what it sounded like to me is that you changed the subject.
No, I didn't just
Okay.
directly change it. I just didn't keep going down.
That path.
Like
Yeah.
we had the interaction.
Yeah.
I could feel that he just was upset with it. And instead of me going, it's a full long season, a lot of things are going to go up and down, everything that I know as to be true, but he's not going to feel that at that moment, right?
No, he's got to figure that out for himself.
Right.
Just like you did, just like all of us do, really. So, the only other thing that I can suggest, though, in that scenario is to say, is there anything you need from me right now?
Okay. Offer.
That's a really, really helpful thing to say in many situations, in marital situations, when your spouse is upset. Instead of trying to talk them out of it, instead of trying to figure out what it is they're needing from you, just be present and then say, is there anything you need from me right now?
Right.
That can be
like that.
incredibly helpful because at least it gets the person to consider their own needs. It gets them to ask themselves that question. Well, what is it that I really need? Well, I don't really know. Well, that's interesting that I have no idea what I need.
Right.
It brings a level of awareness to a person.
And that's what I'm saying, because that's the hard thing, right? So I know, because my wife, Anna, she has a different approach. Um, and I understand her approach, right? Because it's natural as a parent to want to kind of try and save the day, right? In a sense, but saving the day sometimes is just letting them know you're there.
That can be profoundly helpful. I mean, so what is the difference between your approach and Anna's approach?
That she tries to explain it like I used to do, but I've learned to, give him the space and let him, if he has questions, come to me.
Yeah.
She tries to say, Anthony, it's fine. Don't be so hard on yourself. And I get that. I totally understand why she
does it is because she
right.
doesn't like hearing that he's distressed.
Right. Because we don't.
It makes it more about her than it does about him.
And I understand that. And
how helpful is that, really?
Right.
I mean,
but I can understand
where she's coming from.
Correct.
Yeah.
The desire to want to, because for many, and I still struggle with that. There's times where I just want to go, oh, I can take,
Let me fix it for you.
Yeah.
Let me listen. Yeah. And that's one of the hardest things about being a parent with kids that are getting older.
Yes.
Playing out that line and trusting that they have to walk their own road. You cannot walk the road for them as much as you want to. You really just can't do that. And in fact, if you try, you're cheating them of their own unique experience. It's not fair.
No, I agree. And, that's something that her and I discuss a lot is, we need to let them, they're at the point, we just make them aware that we're here for them to help. They needed questions answered or anything like that. We're here, but you're in charge. You make your decisions, but be aware that your decisions affect your future. And,
but nobody can know how those decisions are going to
affect it. Right. Yeah. But I just, I always make sure they understand that everything we do
has an impact. Yeah.
Yes. Creates
cause and effect. Yeah.
Yes. A cause and effect. So be prepared.
Well, but you can never, how can you be prepared? How can you know what?
Well, I mean, you can know, you can know, like, if I take this piece of candy and leave the store with it without paying, the effect could be in being in trouble.
Could be. Could
Correct.
be.
Could be. I understand.
Might be. Might get away with
But you
it.
also know, they know at this point in their lives that doing that is the wrong choice and paying for it is the right choice,
Okay.
is what I mean.
Okay.
Other,
All right.
the other choices, you don't know. I agree with you.
You really can. Yeah.
You know,
So you also wanted to talk about fear.
right. Well, because I really think that it's along these same lines. And, I know. So with Anthony, I understand um, sort of like what he goes through because I kind of go through the same things, right? We don't, there's a lot of things. So, for example, I want to uh, create more video and I want to offer more help, right? And reach more people. And I know some of the ways to do it, right? So I know to do Facebook Live videos, for example. We'll use that. Reaches more people than just posting a um, a picture with a little saying on Facebook, right? Because that's the way the algorithms work. I know that it does, but I think it's fear, or I think it's overthinking, trying to say, okay, so I need to say this, or I need to look this way, I need to do it at this time, and you know, creating too many reasons or too many speed bumps not to do it, right? Instead of just flipping the camera on and doing it.
What happened to show up, be present, tell the truth, and don't be attached to outcomes?
Well, that's what I mean. So that's where I get stuck, is that outcome part.
So it's hard for you to be yourself.
I don't necessarily.
Well, if you're worried about what you look like and you're worried about what you're going to say, and if you're preoccupied with what if this and what if that, you're not being yourself. You're trying to create some sort of image that's anything but you.
Right. And I understand that, but you also see, it's interesting because when I'm exercising and I put it on, it doesn't affect me at all. I have no problem. You know what I mean? But when it comes to, you know, any other situation,
Like what?
I
Like
hesitate. So anything to
what?
do with what I do for a living. So with sales techniques and different things like that, I want to discuss, but then I hesitate,
You don't
and
have the
next thing I
confidence.
know, it doesn't happen.
So, what creates the hesitation? This is an opportunity for you to really slow yourself down and tune into what the internal narrative is and figure out what is the hesitation about.
The
What is the,
fear, the fear that I don't know if it's fear that what I'm saying is not accurate or not helpful.
yeah,
I
that's
don't
what
know what the right words
well,
are.
that's what I thought, and that's what I thought when I heard you describe it, and it just sounds like you're lacking in confidence. You don't trust yourself.
Well, but which is fascinating to me because when I'm in front of someone and I'm with someone, I have no, when I'm in the element, there is no lack of confidence. But when it's just me and wanting to put it out there on a camera, I waver a little bit. I want to think I I think I and I this is what I mean, like I'm hung up because I don't know what it is, to be perfectly honest with you.
That's okay. Let's let it be okay that you don't know what it is.
I still do it though,
I know
which
you do.
is
I know. I
I
know. I
I
know.
I want to do it more.
You still do it in spite of that
Correct.
hesitation. And how satisfied are you with the product?
I never listen to it.
Well, maybe that would be a useful thing for you to do. And
You think
not
so?
yeah,
Because I
listen,
don't ever listen to our podcast either.
I never do either.
Because
But
of this is my fear of that is if I was just saying it today. Uh, that my fear is that if I listen to it, then I'm going to critique it.
and so what?
Well, if I then I'm worried I'm going to start overthinking it.
Okay, but you're not going to know if that's, see, all I'm wondering, and I don't know if this is a good suggestion or not, but what I'm wondering is, since this is something you don't do, what would it be like if you did do it and not
Right.
necessarily publish it, just do it for your own benefit, pretend that you're doing it live, or pretend, you know what I'm saying? And
Right.
do several and begin to pick out what you like about what you're doing and what you don't like, what seems to be effective. Pretend you're just you're watching someone else.
Yeah. So I can see that. So that's what I need to do.
It might be worth a try. I mean, there's no guarantee that it would be helpful, but I guess all I'm saying is, since you haven't done that yet,
Right.
since you've kind of really avoided doing that because in a way you have your mind pretty made up about how it would play out, do it and see if you're right. You might be right, but you might be wrong, and it might be educational and informative and help you go forward in what you want to do.
Yeah, I
Especially
like that.
especially if you look at it, as if this is somebody I don't know right now. This is somebody I'm watching objectively. What do I like
Right.
about what he's saying? What do I like about his tone? What he's saying making sense? I mean, if you could step back and I know it's very hard to be objective. I know it is, but I wonder if it might be possible for you and might be helpful.
It's almost it's just like when because I did the first handful of episodes before you
Yeah,
had joined
before.
me,
Yeah.
um, and I never listened to those. But yeah, I mean, you gave me feedback, and other people gave me feedback as well. So
Well,
and that's why I push through it, and a lot of times, and I still do them because I think of the people that have said, thank you, and I think of the people that approach me about especially our podcasts and whatnot, and we talk about the topics that we've discussed and how their lives and different things that they face, and that sticks in my head as like, I may, you know, your fear is the story you're telling yourself, right? And that's my biggest hang up.
the biggest hang up is the fear the story you're
Correct.
telling.
I'm telling myself this story in my head that the content or
It's
whatnot
not,
is not valuable
it's not good enough.
where
Yeah.
it is in
Yeah.
reality. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
because if one person finds value in it, then it has value, right?
But I think at the deeper on a deeper level, the question is, where did you get that story that says you're not good enough?
Well, that's
Because
the challenge that I've been dealing with my entire life. Like we've discussed in prior episodes that,
excuse
bless
me.
you,
Thank you.
that from my childhood, and
But we never
being a
really dug,
younger sibling,
we
and
never really dug into that. We've never really dug
well,
into.
we've touched surfaces.
I didn't say we've never really touched surfaces. I said
Well,
we never.
we can't give everything away right in the beginning, right? That's called the hook, you know?
Well, you said you want to do therapy on your podcast. And Bill, you're telling yourself a story that you constructed when you were very small. And the only way to reconstruct that story is to go back and revisit or visit for the first time since you made it up. What were the circumstances that gave you help you come to those conclusions about yourself?
Because that's the thing that I think about not all the time, but how do I, 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 I don't know one example or one moment that I could pinpoint and say that's when I felt it.
You really think that there was one moment like that?
Or even at all. Does that, I just looking back, I can
No.
say, oh, well, it's easy to say that I always compared myself to like my sister, my older sister, you know?
Was it just you that compared yourself to her, or were you compared to her by your parents?
No, I don't, that's what I mean by my parents I never heard, oh, you should be more like Lisa or anything along those
But
lines.
they don't necessarily have to come straight out and say that. they can do that in many different ways. I mean, there's a lot here that we haven't even talked about.
No, I understand that.
There's a whole lot here that, so I'm grasping at straws here when I try to
Well,
respond.
so am I, because I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, well, you basically, what you're telling me is you had a really wonderful childhood.
I I don't.
And for me, anytime I hear that from somebody, it's like a red flag. I'm like, yeah,
Well,
okay.
I don't. I mean, well, I guess what would you classify wonderful? I don't.
Well, it doesn't exist. I wouldn't classify anything as wonderful because it simply doesn't exist.
Right. I mean, I look at my childhood as. I mean, I had a good childhood. I mean,
What
did
does that
I?
mean? What does that mean? Nobody
Well,
put
I don't. I
nobody
don't.
beat you, nobody put cigarettes out on your back,
Right.
or
Stuff like that.
people fed you, people gave you clothes. But there are a lot of subtleties that happen in childhood that we tend to disregard. We tend to
Yeah. No, I
trivialize.
get that.
We tend to decide are not really relevant or not really impactful. But depending on the child, they can be extremely impactful, and it isn't intentional. Parents don't do it on purpose. Parents are finding their own way through this
Oh, absolutely.
just like, they have no idea what they're doing. They're doing mostly unconsciously what their parents did for them or to them. And they have no idea the impact it's having on their children. And it's probably having a different impact on every child.
Well, yeah. I mean, we have 4 children, and each one of them has been impacted differently with our parenting. Just that
Okay,
simple.
so you have an older sister,
Yeah, that's all. It was just
and
her and I.
okay, so just the two of you.
Yeah.
How was she impacted? How is she? Do you ever talk to her about your childhood? Do you ever reminisce? Do you ever say what do you remember?
I mean, yes. We're close, but not. I mean, we don't talk every day. That type of.
Yeah, but it's really closeness is more about what you're able to talk about when you do talk. What subjects are not on the table, what subjects are avoided, what
Well,
subjects
I
are.
don't think there. My sister and I don't think there's a subject that's not on the table. I know with how we were, my parents, there, it was a, a different way. Like, for example, my wife and I are subjects are much more openly discussed with our children than they were ever discussed with me and my parents.
What subjects were not discussed with you as a child that you
Well,
wish
just
were?
relationships and the interaction of relationships, communication, the importance
How
of it.
how did you see your parents interact? How did you see your parents conduct their relationship?
Uh,
Did they argue? Did they resolve their arguments? Did
oh,
they?
they are. I mean, they argued. Yes, my father is has always been vocal, um, and my mother responded. I mean, they worked out their differences. I don't know how. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. You
I mean,
didn't.
because it wasn't like openly worked out in front of.
How did you know it got worked out then? What did you actually see?
Well, because
No, not because. I asked
no,
you
I was
what.
going to just say what I
What
saw.
yeah, but you said because.
Because you asked me how did I
Uh,
know it
Go on,
was.
go on,
So I
whatever.
was I
Go on.
was answering that.
Yeah, but what did you actually see that let you
So if
know?
they argued at this point, say tonight, that tomorrow they weren't arguing, and they kiss goodbye, kiss hello, stuff like that.
So it could be that they just kind of brushed it under the carpet as well.
Right.
Could be.
Or it could be that they sat and talked for 3 hours. I wouldn't know
Wouldn't
that.
know. But so you're coming to the conclusion that they resolve their differences
More
when
than
they
likely,
well,
knowing my parents now as an adult, um,
doesn't mean
they
that
just woke up and it was a new day.
it doesn't mean that that's how they were when you were a kid, and it doesn't
Right.
mean that. I mean, so yeah, I mean,
That's what I mean. If there's a lot of assumptions, it's really difficult. I know that, like I said, relationships and communication um, weren't discussed. Meaning,
Did you
like, okay, so for example, with my children, we sit down and we discuss the importance of communicating and expressing, just like how we were just talking about Anthony, and letting them know that we're there to listen and not judge and, you know, be open. That wasn't, you know, that wasn't something that was,
what I'm curious about was though, did you try? How do you know what gave you the impression that that wasn't what we did in our household? Did you try and not get
I don't
anywhere?
ever remember trying.
So you never remembered trying to talk to your parents about things that mattered to you? Do you remember
I don't,
what I mean, do you remember being angry as a little kid? Do you remember getting in trouble? What are the memories that you have?
well, being angry, I guess, I mean, I got in trouble for my grades. I got in trouble for, once I got to high school was, um, well, high school was parties and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I'm asking you before you got to school. Do you
Oh, I don't
remember
remember being 3, 4, 5. That
what are the stories that are told about you as a child? Were you a good
I
kid?
was a I was a mama's boy. I was always, you know, yeah.
I
I mean,
don't know.
I've never heard a story that I was a bad kid.
Did you ever have tantrums? I mean, these are kind of things that
No, no. As far as I know, not. I wasn't temper tantrums or.
so you have four children.
Mhm,
You're in the process of raising four children.
yeah.
Which one of them has never had a temper tantrum?
Which one of them has never? Well, okay. So when I think of a temper tantrum, I'm thinking of throwing themselves on the floor, kicking and screaming, and you just can't get them to
Well,
stop.
communicating their fury, communicating their frustration, communicating their rage. Any of them not done that?
Vincent's never really.
He never had a meltdown as a baby, as a toddler, as a 3-year-old. Really?
Well, that's what I mean. So as a meltdown, like I want to play with this toy type of meltdown, they've
What?
all had that.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So you had that too.
I'm sure. I don't know. I don't. Do you remember that about you?
Yeah, I remember having meltdowns,
Oh, I don't. I
and I remember.
I don't remember before first grade, to be honest with you. I mean, very little.
Well, yeah, that is in it itself interesting that
I
you that
remember first grade being upset that I had to go to school and leaving the line and going back to my mother multiple times.
because you didn't want to leave your mom.
Yeah, because I didn't want to leave my mother.
What does being a mama's boy mean? Who says
That I never wanted to leave my mother.
who gave you that label that you were a
I
mom?
just remember it as a kid hearing it.
Who but
I
who
don't know who exactly.
okay. So you had a closer relationship with your mom than you did with your dad.
Yes.
And why was that? How did you
My father worked 2 jobs and
so you never
I,
saw that?
well, yeah. I mean, briefly in between.
So you didn't really have much of a consistent male role model. The only real adult role model you had was your mom.
Well, I mean, that was up till first grade. Then my mom went to work and my father just worked 1 job. So, and then he coached me in sports, so he was always there.
How was that transition for you when he stayed home and your mom was gone more
I don't
often?
really remember it as a transition. I mean, he didn't stay home, he worked.
I
My
know.
mom worked, he
What I'm
worked.
saying
We
was your mom was home most of the time, right? And then suddenly she
Well,
wasn't.
when I was, yeah, because I didn't, back then I didn't go to they didn't have daycares on every corner.
Right, right, right.
So my mom didn't work until,
Yeah.
I
No,
was in first grade.
Bill, I completely understand that. But what I'm trying
Well,
to
because
was
what I'm trying to explain is that I don't know of it as it was more like the transition was more like I went to school and wasn't around either one of my parents, then I was around my father more than my mother. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And I'm asking you if you can remember how it was. Your mom was there all the time, and you were a mama's boy. You were very attached to your mom.
Correct.
And
So
yet
school at the beginning was very difficult. I didn't want to be there.
you didn't want to be there. And I'm wondering how it was when you came home from school and mom wasn't there and dad was.
I don't know. I just watched
Right?
cartoons. That's what I remember.
Right. No,
Eating and cartoons.
yeah, no big deal. No big deal. Nothing really.
Yeah, it
Didn't
wasn't.
really have much of an impact on you. It's interesting for somebody as emotional as I know you to be,
Mhm.
somebody with such deep feelings, you're kind of blowing off the experience of the little boy that you were pretty handily. You're just like, yeah, no, fine, yeah, yeah, he is
I
fine.
because I
Yeah,
don't know.
no, I know, but I'm inviting you.
I
I'm
understand
inviting.
exactly, but I'm explaining to you that I
Your
even
answers,
as even going through
your answers are coming very quickly. And
grade
I'm
school.
not getting the impression that you're going inside very much to really reflect on what I'm saying. I'm getting stuff, it feels like I'm getting stuff batted back at me without you taking much time to reflect on what I'm saying. You're just like, just an instant reaction, which is to blow it off. Listen, I'm not trying to judge your parents.
No, I understand that. But I'm also trying to explain that I don't know. I can sit here and try to reflect. I guess is the term, but I don't necessarily remember. I remember going to school, coming home at lunchtime, watching Leave It to Beaver. 12:35, walking back with my sister to school.
Did you ever miss your mom when she wasn't there? Because one minute she was there, and the
Well,
next,
yeah, I had a very difficult time
that's what
every morning going to school.
because
I didn't want to go
you didn't want to go. Why? Because you
because
didn't
I
want.
didn't want to be away from her.
But could it have been that you knew you had quickly cottoned on to the fact that when you got home from school, she wasn't going to be there like she always had
I
been?
don't see that's the part I don't know. I don't know how to look and figure that out either, is what I mean.
It's just a matter of allowing yourself to listen. The little boy that didn't want to go to school in the morning, he's looking at me through he's right there. He, those eyes that you're looking at me through
I
are,
I understand that, but I don't
yeah,
remember
no, but
not being upset coming home from school, if
maybe,
that makes sense.
but that may be because you knew that may have been why you were upset leaving. Because all of a sudden you knew you were used to having your mom there all the time, somebody
Right.
that you were very, very attached to. And all this huge transition happened for you. You end up going to school. You have to go to school. Not only do you go to school and leave your mom in the morning, but you don't, she's not there when you come home at night. So who would want to leave in the morning knowing she wouldn't be there at night?
Well, she would. She'd be home for dinner and then the
Yeah,
rest of the
but
night.
not when you get back from school.
Well, yeah, we get back at 3:30. She'd be home before 6.
So what I'm saying is she was conspicuous suddenly by her absence. Her absence was quite deafening. You grew up having her there all the time. That may have been why you didn't want to go to school in the morning.
Oh, yeah, I'm
You didn't
sure
want
that's
to separate
why.
from her. And so I'm just saying this may have been a difficult time for you as a little boy. That's all I'm trying to say.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you.
Well,
But when you ask if how I felt at the end of the school day, I just couldn't wait to get home at that point. I still remember looking at the clock at school and going, "Okay, it's almost 3 o'clock."
were you looking forward to seeing your dad? Did you feel glad to see I mean, did you develop a,
Yeah, I don't remember not being excited. I mean, I come home and I mean, he was watching his thing and I went and did my thing. And at that time, especially with grade school or whatnot, we played outside a lot. So it was more the excitement of going and playing from what I can remember. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, somewhere along the line, though, what I'm trying to do is see if I can make any kind of connection
Right.
to where you came up with the idea that you just weren't good enough. You came up with
Yeah,
that.
I agree with you. I mean, I think about it, because obviously it was at some point, right?
Well,
Or is that maybe that's not what I,
it isn't ever at any one given
well, I
point.
don't mean like at this exact point at
Yeah,
10:59 p.m. I just mean
yeah,
that somewhere along the line there had to be some series of something.
I would think so. I would think that it's likely somewhere along the. I mean,
I
no
mean,
child.
could it be as simple as, see, I don't like the whole I don't I'm not big on school. We've discussed this many times. And I'm not big on the whole grading thing, right? Because someone that can sit there and either memorize information or take a test to where they get a, right? Doesn't mean they know, understand, and comprehend the teachings more than someone that doesn't have that type of and doesn't test well. You get what I
Well,
mean?
I get what you mean. And is this something that 6-year-old Bill would have been able to say to me
I
when,
don't think at 6. No,
right?
I mean,
Or
but
it's
I don't necessarily think that I don't think at 6 is when it developed. I think it was more just over years of school
but
and
weren't
always
didn't you tell me that your parents were always on you about grades?
correct. But that's what I mean. That has to do with school though.
Yeah.
And on me about my grades, it was more like seventh, sixth, seventh, eighth, those grades. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. I mean, I did well, but I don't know of anyone that I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I
What
know that when sixth, seventh, eighth grade, and so and all through high school, my grades, my I didn't get A's. It didn't mean I wasn't, and that was always the problem, right? So I
were
went
they?
to Catholic school.
Wait. Whoa, slow down. Were they expecting you to get A's?
I don't think my parent. No, I don't ever think my parents expected me to get A's. They just didn't expect me to fail either.
And what happened? You said third, fourth, fifth grade, sixth grade, I did well. What
Well,
happened?
that's when my report cards was all A's. That's what I
What
mean. Like I
happened?
don't.
What
I
happened?
what do you mean? What happened? Nothing happened. I,
So
I I don't know.
let me explain then.
Okay,
Until sixth grade, you did well.
from what
Seventh,
I remember, yes.
seventh, eighth, first year of high school, you didn't do well. What caused you to stop doing well? Do you think? You
Well,
made
I think that naturally there's a transition in the way education is designed, and really watching my children go through, first through fifth, they don't. Testing isn't, how do I put it? Okay, so like with Vincent, okay, so Anthony, Corinne, Justin, they always had very high grades, still have very high grades. Vincent was always very high grades until he's in seventh grade, sixth grade now, till fifth, and fifth last year, and then this year a little bit more struggle. And by being involved in the school systems and and seeing it, they do grade you in first, second, third, fourth, but to me it's not to the level as when you get into fifth and sixth, right? That's when it starts to be a little bit more comprehensive type of testing.
and what
Whereas I think that in the younger grades they
here's what
grade you more on how you interact.
here's what I'm getting, Bill. I'm getting you giving me a treatise, a philosophical discussion about the school system and how it works. And
Correct.
I don't hear you talking about yourself as a kid. And
Well, I
I'm
don't think
really,
anything changed though. You get
well,
what I'm saying? Like,
but
I go through.
I'm
Go ahead.
really not interested in generalizations, and you're avoiding
I'm
really
not avoiding anything.
well, not deliberately, not
Okay.
deliberately, but you're really struggling with sticking with my questioning, which is I'm interested in your experience as a little boy. I'm
Right.
not interested in a generalized philosophical or
Okay. Well,
political.
I cannot answer
I'm just interested. You said yourself that I
that. You
well,
asked me what changed, and I'm explaining to you the only thing that I know has changed.
well, did anything change in your environment
No.
when you were that age? Did
Nope.
anything happen in school? Anything social happen in school? How come you
Well,
started
I mean,
trouble with?
when you start to, fifth and sixth grade, you start to experience that you're a young boy and there's a young girl, that type of,
Okay,
so
so
yeah, socially everything changes because now you're going into
you re,
friendships and things.
you remember that personally when between sixth grade and seventh grade or fifth grade and sixth grade. You remember
Well,
that?
I remember, so in the school that I went to, the elementary we went first through eighth grade Catholic school. So there were two buildings. The first building you went first to four. The second building you went fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. I specifically remember when we switched buildings is when I can pinpoint when who you were friends with started to matter, and different things like that. So,
You
but that's
started.
also
So it's you know what? Different kids respond to that very same stimulus different ways.
correct.
So you keep wanting to generalize. Well, that's natural. I mean, that's what every kid does. Well, that's what
No, I'm not
everybody.
generalizing. I'm saying that was the only thing that
Well, that's a
changed,
big
but
thing.
that's not okay. So I guess what my point is when you ask what did anything change, my mind goes to did my mom and dad divorce? Did we have to move out of our house? Did those things? My mind doesn't go to the natural order of as you grow older,
Then,
social
but
circles change.
it eventually did go there. And what I'm putting together, maybe if this, you're not making this easy for me. I'm just going to tell you.
It's not easy for
But
me
I
either,
know it's
though,
not.
because
I know it's not. But so what I'm wondering about is you started being in puberty, you started to get erections, you started to have wet dreams, and you were in a family where you didn't talk about that stuff.
well, I wouldn't even have known to talk about that, though.
Well, I know, but you would have known because you were in your own body and you knew you were having erections. But you didn't have anybody that you felt you could talk to about that, is what I'm trying to say. You were
But
on your own.
but to I understand what you're saying, but to what you're saying is I don't remember it that way.
That's
Does that
not
make
true.
sense?
That's not true. You became
No,
interested.
I don't. I
You
don't I don't remember it. Like I don't remember the first directions and the wet dreams.
that
The
didn't happen to you. You didn't go through that,
well, I'm sure it did.
but you don't have any memory of it.
Correct. I don't have a memory as it being a significant moment.
Really? Wow.
No, not at all.
So who did you talk to about sexual things? Who did you talk to
I
about
don't
your?
ever remember having a discussion with anyone about it other than, your friends and whatnot, those circles.
And that would have been fine for your boys, right? To have that kind of
No,
environment.
we've talked about it.
But so why did you bother? Because that was fine for you. It was good enough for you, and
I
it
didn't
did.
say it was fine for me. I don't know of it not being I don't does that
I'm just wondering what how that was for you. There's a correlation between your getting into puberty and your grades going down.
correct?
And it may not just have been because of the differences in the educational system. That's all I'm trying.
No, what my point with that is I know my personality. Do you understand? And a lot of my personality was developed during those years. You know, I mean, obviously, and my personality doesn't. I even to this day, I can't walk into an educational system and succeed based on because I don't. I mean, I'm sure I can. I don't know how to put it. I'm not comfortable with it.
So
It's that simple.
there's a lot that got embedded for you somehow between fifth and sixth grade and junior high school in that general.
Right, in that area.
And that may be the root of some of your discomfort in the educational system. And it may not just have been about the comprehensive testing that they did. There may have been something missing for you in your life. There may have been a sense of not having support. There may have been a sense of not being as confident, maybe as you saw some of the other kids being, where you concluded that you just weren't good enough. That's all I'm trying to say. You didn't
No, I
have
understand.
kind of information. You didn't have any kind of parental support around these radical changes, these hormonal changes that were going on in your body. And that's not easy sometimes for a kid, for a girl, for a boy, for anybody.
No,
Not
I
not to have that information. You didn't have any input. And you're just treating it as, yeah, well, never, I don't remember much about it. And
but that's my point. I don't remember having the conversation,
right.
but I don't remember I couldn't honestly tell you that wasn't brought up either though.
I would bet what
It probably wasn't. I would
that's what I'm
rest
gonna
on that
say.
side.
You characterize your family as one that didn't talk about much stuff, deep stuff. So
No, yeah.
if they talked about the changes that were going on in your body and wet dreams and erections and masturbation and that kind of thing, my bet is that you'd have remembered it. It
No,
would
I
have been
understand. That's why I
stunning.
said I lean more on the side
Yeah.
of that it didn't happen.
So all I'm trying to say is you may have felt at a disadvantage. There may have been other kids that seemed to you to know more than you did.
Right, without me realizing that they did know, you know.
Right,
I
but
understand.
we always put other people up on pedestals and think that they know more than we do. But
Right.
that might not have been easy for you to navigate with certainly without having any adults around that could help guide you through
Right.
that. You don't sound like you had any adults to guide you. That's all I'm trying to say.
I understand. I'm not upset.
No, I know you're not upset, but this is, you know, a long time ago, you said, I want you to do
I
therapy
know.
online. And I said, Bill, you're crazy. And I've been dancing around this for a long time and not really confronting you on much stuff, but you keep raising questions about stuff that have deeper roots.
No, I
And
like it, and
you
I
have,
want to know. I think the one of the frustrating things for me is not being able to answer.
well, it's not necessarily that you have to have an answer. It's that you have to be open enough to consider the question and consider what that means for you, that you don't know very much and you don't have very much memory. You don't have very much awareness of your early experiences. And usually we forget stuff because they're unpleasant. The things that we tend to forget are the unpleasant things, the uncomfortable things, the scary things.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a really good quote. I may have read it before. It's a Jeff Brown quote, but we can save that for another time because I'm going to run. But
I know we got to go. I know it's
yeah,
a long.
but
Well, you
it's
kept asking questions, you
I
know.
oh, it's my fault. Go ahead, blame me.
No, I'm glad. I mean, I want to, and I know that we're going to go down this road again.
Oh yeah,
And
well you asked for it, Bill.
I
You
know
set
I'm
the
happy.
tone.
I'm glad. I want to figure it out
All right.
because I see I want to I want to figure it out for me.
Well, here's the thing. If you don't figure it out, it's never going to go away. And it's going
Correct.
to constantly trip you up. It's going to or I have to, okay, I got to find the quote. If I can find it relatively easily, I'm going to read it to you because it's a brilliant, for me, it sums up a great truth about what therapy is, so let me see if I can find it. And I wasn't planning. I mean, I'm not prepared
No, I understand.
really.
It's
So
okay. This is what we do.
yeah, I know. All
No,
right.
and
Here it is. I
oh,
found
here we go.
it. I don't know if I
Good,
read
because I didn't really want to say anything else.
All right. I didn't know if I read this to you before or not, but he says it's up to you. It's always up to you. You can deny, repress, distort, and bury your unresolved wounds all you want. You can reframe them, pseudo positivity them, detach from them, spiritually bypass them. You can rename yourself, hide away in a monastery, turn your story around, and you can spend all your money on superficial healing practices and hocus pocus practitioners. But it won't mean a damn thing if you don't do the deeper work to excavate and heal your primary wounds. Because the material is still there, right where you left it, ruling your life and controlling your choices. This is the nature of unhealed material. It is alive. And one way or another, it will manifest itself in your lived experience. It will language your inner narrative. It will obstruct your path and limit your possibilities. It lives everywhere that you live. And so you have to decide: excavate it and bring it into consciousness where it can be worked through and integrated, or repress it and watch it rule your life. It's one of the hardest truths we have to face. If we don't deal with our stuff, it deals with us. There is no way around it. Just choose.
Interesting.
And you tell me, a lot of the things that you tell me are make me think of this image of somebody trying to pull a stone along behind them, tied onto their ankle, and they can't figure out why they can't move forward smoothly.
Yeah, I could see that.
So that's what I feel when I talk with you. And that's what I'm offering to help you excavate.
No, I appreciate it.
All right. But
And
it's not
we'll
easy.
keep digging. I know it's not easy.
Very, 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 very painful. It can be very difficult. It can bring up a whole host of really uncomfortable feelings, but it's so valuable. It's so incredibly valuable to free yourself from those limiting wounds.
Right.
Those wounds can be healed, but they first have to be looked at.
Right. We have to understand them.
Yep.
I'm
Okay.
in.
Okay.
Let's do this.
So next week it's I'm hoping it's my son talking about conspiracy theory with you.
Yes, I'm in. Conspiracy theories.
I'm just going to be listening because I'm not. This is going
We
to be
both are.
this is going to be between the two of you.
I don't. I understand, but I kind of get the feeling it'll be a little bit of me and a whole lot of him, which will be wonderful.
Well, I don't know. You have a lot to say about this stuff, so it'll be interesting. It'll be very, very interesting. We'll
Very
see.
good.
All
Well,
right.
you have a wonderful week.
Thank you. You too.
Okay. Bye bye.